Ever since I stepped into the digital art world some years ago, I have been bombarded with the idea that screen tablets are superior to screenless tablets in every way imaginable. It seems that the digital art world is convinced that to have a fulfilling drawing experience, you need a screen tablet. And while screen tablets are amazing, and I totally understand the hype, today I would like to make a case for screenless tablets because I think they're quite underappreciated. So today I'll tell you why I personally use a screenless tablet despite having the option to use a screen one, and to give myself some credibility, I was a screen tablet user for years before making the switch. To explain to you why I use a non-screen tablet, I first have to explore why screen tablets are so popular in the first place. But before I jump into this, I want to give a disclaimer that I'm referring to screen tablets that require to be plugged into a computer to work, not standalone devices like, for example, the iPad. If portability is a feature you cannot live without, then the most obvious choice for you will most likely be a standalone device that most likely also has a screen. The first and most obvious reason is that they mimic traditional art. With a screen tablet, you have a screen that you draw directly on and you can in real time see the brushstrokes you're making. This is very intuitive and very easy to grasp by people who were previously doing traditional art. And as somebody who started their art journey by doing traditional art, I can definitely appreciate this. Number two is the sensory experience that a screen tablet can give you. I'm sure you have seen those videos where people have a paper-like screen protector on their iPad and they're making these ASMR-like videos where you can just hear the scribbles on the screen, and it is the most satisfying thing in the world. Oh, I love those videos. To my knowledge, not many screenless tablets offer this experience, especially because there are not many protectors made for screenless tablets. The third reason is the immersion. When you're drawing directly on a screen, there's no disconnect between you and your art piece. As I said before, you're drawing on a screen, you're seeing what you're drawing, and you feel connected to your artwork. With screenless tablets, however, people often argue that there's a disconnect between them and the drawing because there's an extra layer of barrier. You're not drawing directly on the screen that you're looking at, so it can feel a little detaching. And I totally understand this, but I will address this later and why that's not that big of an issue. The fourth main reason why I think people love screen tablets is the color accuracy of the screen. Many high-end screen tablets have a color accurate screen, which is obviously one of the most important things we want in a device as artists. So you don't have to worry about buying an external monitor and checking the color accuracy of it if it's already there for you in the first place. But despite all these features, I still prefer a screenless tablet, and here's why. The first and perhaps the most important reason of them all is health and comfort. When I was using a screen tablet, I often found myself hunched over like Quasimodo, and despite trying to be upright and use my shoulder to draw, not my wrist, I often found myself with pains that I just don't have with screenless tablets. With a non-screen tablet, I am technically forced to sit upright and look straight, meaning that my neck doesn't get any strain and I can focus on drawing without any distractions. This also means that I don't have to take breaks as frequently, which means I can finish my art much faster and I'm much more immersed in the process. So consider a screenless tablet if you don't want to ruin yourself. And by the way, before any screen tablet lovers come for me in the comments, I know that screen tablets don't equate back pain and there are ways to prevent it. From personal experience, however, I found that making the switch helped me tremendously and I think it's really good for you. Just my 2 cents, okay? Take it with a grain of salt. Number two is the price. I'm sure you have seen the price differences between screen and non-screen tablets. But if you haven't, I'm going to show you a few. Screen tablets can get very expensive very fast, meanwhile screenless tablets are usually more budget friendly. So that's why I think they're a really good option for people who are on a budget or just don't want to spend a lot of money. And many professional artists in the industry actually use screenless tablets, which only proves that you don't need a super expensive device to make good art. The third reason why I prefer screenless tablets is that there are no screen angle issues. You may not realize this, but when you're using a screen tablet, you're forced to look at your art at a skewed angle, which distorts your art and makes it much harder to notice mistakes. However, with the screenless tablet, I have the monitor parallel to me, which means that there's no weird angles going on and I can really see my art for what it is. Number four is that I'm not limited by the quality or size of the screen. When I was talking about screen tablets, I mentioned how it's nice that you don't have to rely on external monitors, and a lot of screen tablets are already color accurate. However, there's a downside to this. When you're using a screen tablet, you're tied to the quality and size of the screen that the screen tablet has. So if you ever want to make any upgrades, you have to buy a completely new drawing tablet. With a screenless tablet, I can have a really good quality color accurate monitor, and if I ever have the budget, I can upgrade it either in size or quality, and I'm not tied to a tablet. I think this is especially important for artists who want to go professional with their art and they don't want to be tied to one device. The fifth reason why I love my screenless tablet is that I have an unobstructed view of my art. On a screen tablet, your hand can get in the way of what you're drawing, especially when you're drawing tiny details. I previously mentioned that people complain that when you have a screenless tablet, you kind of have a barrier between you and your art because there's an extra layer to the process. However, I want to argue the opposite. Before I started using a screenless tablet, I also worried that I would feel very disconnected from my art. However, on the contrary, the opposite happened. I felt like I could finally focus on my art as it was. There was no hand in the way, there was no weird angles going on, and once I understood how to use the tablet, it just felt like I was so much more immersed in the process. Nowadays, if I ever try to use my iPad, for example, when I'm traveling, I feel like there's a disconnect, regardless of my hand being right there. I guess it just comes down to what you're most comfortable using. So yeah, those are all the reasons why I love screenless tablets, and I can already hear the comments being typed as I speak, so let me address something. Many people feel like it's way too difficult to either make the switch or in general get used to the hand-eye coordination that screenless tablets require. I, before making the switch, also had the same exact worry, and I felt like it would take me months to get used to, but it took me 2 weeks, if not 1, to get used to it, so I say there's really nothing to worry about. Of course, it depends on the person and the device you're using, etc., but I really don't think it should be a reason that deters you from trying a screenless tablet. I of course don't want to just throw you into the dark with all this information, and I would like to give some recommendations on products. However, I want to say I have only tried 2 screenless tablets so far, and they're from the same brand, which is XP Pen. Not sponsored, but there are many options, and I can definitely vouch for XP Pen, but I of course haven't tried any other brands, so I can't speak for those. But if you're on a budget, the XP Pen Deco Pro, I believe, Generation 1 is really great. That's what I started with. Lovely tablet. Spent, I think, 2 years drawing on it before making the switch to the Generation 2 because of size reasons. So now I use the Generation 2 Deco Pro by XP Pen, and I absolutely love it. It's huge. It has a remote that is separated from the tablet, which means that I can sit even more ergonomically, and I haven't had a single issue with the tablet so far, beyond maybe the software being a bit clunky, but that's about it. If you're a screenless tablet user and you have some good recommendations for other people, of course write them down below, please. I would love that, and I hope that people can find whatever suits them the best. So yeah guys, this is all the info that I'm gonna throw at you today. I hope I helped you decide on a screenless versus screen tablet, and if you have any recommendations for other artists, if you have any experience with either, then please drop them in comments. I want this place to be as helpful for other people as possible, and that's my aim. I'm not sent by the big screenless tablet corp to convince you of buying a screenless tablet. I'm just talking from my experience. Thank you for watching and sticking with me throughout this video. I really appreciate you. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe. It helps tremendously. And join our Discord community if you want to practice fundamentals with us. Have a lovely week, weekend, whatever it is. Take care. Bye bye.